Call to order. We're going to do quick roll call.
Burning.
Here.
Sisek.
Here.
Koppenberger. Here. This isn't trying to do all that. Kilber.
Here.
O'Connor.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Straw.
Here.
Shaw.
Here. All right, we have a quorum. We are in compliance with open meeting laws, and we have some very special visitors and guests today. So would you guys like to introduce yourselves? That's kind of implied. Please introduce yourself. We'll start.
I'm Teresa Johnson. I'm the chair for the town of St. Joseph.
I'm Don Jordan, the chair for the town of Hudson.
Stan Wagon, village president, village of North Hudson.
I'm Susie Gilbert. I'm with the Hudson Foundation, the Library Foundation.
Joyce Law, president of the Friends of the Library.
All right, and that's what we have for guests today. We are going to move up number 7. We'll just do that right off the bat for Teresa's sake.
Okay.
Is that,
We can do it that way?
Yep.
Sure.
Let's just move up to number 7.
Okay.
Director's report, we'll come back.
Okay, so just so everyone knows, I handed out.
Don't we have to approve the consent?
Yes, we have to
Yes,
approve
we
the
do.
consent agenda. I was joking. That was I was testing Barb's skills there.
David, what's your
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, so we got a motion to approve the consent agenda and a second by Chris. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. With that being said,
Okay, my turn, I'm up.
it's Tina's turn. Yes,
So
number
for
7.
everyone who picked these up, this is from County Supervisor Roy Gilbert. I received it this morning. This copy with the yellow highlights is my corrected copy.
We have one for.
They should have been at the end of the year. So I'm going to go through them, but I wanted you, so you know who did what. So last night, there was a proposal to the city council, and if Rich wants to add anything to this, it was presented by County Supervisor Roy Schober. The stated purpose of the proposal is a resolution of the funding disagreement between the Hudson Library and St. Croix County. The proposal that he presented is this: the city and the village will remain members of the joint library. The towns of Hudson and St. Joe will leave the joint library. Hopefully the towns will leave willingly. I believe that is a direct quote. And number 3, the county's proportional support increases, therefore the county would appoint 3 trustees to the library board. City of Hudson would continue to appoint 3 members, Village of North Hudson would appoint 1 member, and the Hudson Area School District would appoint 1 member. The benefits, as deemed by Schober, would be that the county would increase Act 150 funding to the Hudson Area Public Library back to 100%. No library tax increase for the city of Hudson. Neighboring libraries would receive funding for use by Town of Hudson and the Town of St. Joe residents. Stringent levy limits would no longer apply to library funding from the Town of Hudson and Town of St. Joe funding to the Hudson Area Library. And county increases funding to Hudson Area Library when the city increases funding. So those were his presentation points. Along with that spreadsheet, which I know is really tiny. When I looked at the spreadsheet, it took me quite a bit of time to figure out some of the numbers, and I discovered that they were some incorrect numbers. First of all, county circulation, county funding is based on circulation. So for 2019, it would use 2017 circulation. 2018 circulation is what 2020 will be based on for rural county funding. Roy's numbers used 2018 numbers, so I corrected that. 2019 actual funding, those funding numbers were based on last year's numbers. So I corrected those numbers as well. And so that changed some things. So that alternate reality of county funding at $357,582 was wrong. It's actually $353,032. The county total library levy that Roy had in there, on his was actually the 2019 number that just came out for 2020. So the tax that will be taxed for 2020. So the actual county total library levy, $1,114,978, so I corrected that number. Some of the numbers were correct. So I left those, I verified, but I left them as they were correct. So that means that in the alternate reality, which is a city and village joint library, the municipal funding would be $434,336 to the library, and that would 100% comes to the library. Rural circulation would be that $26,143 that we currently receive funding for, plus the $57,563 and $16,303 from the towns, which comes to a total of 100,009 items that are served here at Hudson. And that's that $353,032. So when you come down and you look at those numbers, Roy's was $791,918 to the library, and an increase, a claimed increase of $5,558. In reality, and I realize that I didn't get time to go back and correct this, in reality, the Hudson Library's total revenues, even with the 70% from the county, not the full 100%, is $790,494. The amount in the alternate reality would be $787,368, which is a decrease of $3,126. Compared to full funding, if we were to receive the funds that we should be receiving from the county, that number would be $816,527. So that would actually be a $29,159 decrease under the alternate reality. Sorry about that. So you can see the city and municipal costs down there at the bottom. One of the things that's very interesting is you see that the increase in taxes, library taxes that is, to the town of Hudson would be $298,027. That's what your library taxes would increase to from the $202,543. The town of St. Joe would go from $88,101 up to $170,342. That's what it would have been in 2019. That's not what comes back. I mean, Hudson doesn't get a lot of that back. So the increase to the town of Hudson would be $95,484. To the town of St. Joe, it would be $86,323.
And that's the county tax.
That's the county tax. What comes to the Hudson Area Public Library, from the town of Hudson, it would be an increase of $3,542 of that $95,000 increase. And for the town of St. Joe, it would actually be a decrease of $30,551 out of that $86,000.
That's based on circulation?
Based on circulation.
But part of,
And
can I
then,
interject, because we have New Richmond and Somerset, that if we go into county tax, part of the monies that we're paying are going to those two libraries,
Right,
not just coming here.
that's right.
That's true. Although, and I'll show this when we look ahead, because I, over the weekend, ran the 2020 numbers. So I used that very fun county library levy formula where I took the equalized value of 2019, all properties in St. Croix County, subtracted the 2018 equalized value of communities exempting from the 2019 tax, to determine the 2019 equalized value of property to be taxed for county library services. Then I determined the total county library service appropriated for 2019, which was sent out. One thing you'll notice is that number changes when the town of Hudson and the town of St. Joe go back to being rural residents. Divided that appropriation to determine the county levy rate for 2019, which is the 2020 funding. It's very complicated. And then multiplied the county levy to get what the exemption would be if we were disbanding completely, or if, which is the amount of taxes that the rural residents, or the former partners as you would be. So in 2018, just to give you some perspective here, the total circulation at Hudson was 252,313, 25,934 that was rural circulation. Total materials by all partners that circulated from Hudson, here at Hudson, was 242,357. For the town of Hudson and the town of St. Joe, that was 90,511. So that was all materials circulated, wherever, I'm sorry, I messed that up. So wherever they went in the county. But the materials circulated at other locations by the town of Hudson and town of St. Joe was actually 15,257 combined, or 17% of their circulation. Total materials circulated here at Hudson was 83%. It was 75,227. The total of all materials circulated by all partners at Hudson, 211,934, or 87%. So then I did each, City of Hudson, it's 89%. The Village, you win, it's 95% here at Hudson. Town of Hudson is 88%, and the Town of St. Joe is 69%. So we are seeing people go, and I have ideas about how we can maybe bring them back, but we can talk about that. Having a locker system up at the town hall or something where people could pick up their holds closer to home. So the 2020 requested joint library funding, and this is the number I used in the projections. We're requesting a 2% increase from our partners. 100% of this funding comes to Hudson, and that's important. So that funding request totals $739,477. The total partner county funding total at 100% county funding would be $831,508. Not sure if you've all heard, but that has already been reduced by a 15-2 vote at the county, so it will be 70% for next year. So that's $803,898. So this is just the calculation, so you can see I really did the math. I used a spreadsheet, but I really did the math out there. So here's the city-village funding scenario. Taxes for the town of Hudson would increase to $320,329. So you saw what that number was in 2019 under that alternate reality. That's another increase next year. Same with the town of St. Joe. Goes from 170,432 under that alternate reality in 2019 to 189,932. So the city and village would have the 2% increase, but the town of Hudson would see a 55% increase in their library taxes. And the town of St. Joe would see a 111% increase. So that's pretty substantial. But how much of that comes down to the library? So
To our library.
to our library, to this library. So 100% of the village and the city would come here to Hudson. That's $443,020. From the former partners, we would receive $265,551, which is actually a 10% reduction. So right now,
Is that based on circulation from the former partners, or how did you calculate that number?
So because we are an efficient library, our cost of circulation is $3.53 per circ. If another library's is $3.85, those residents that circ there those libraries are going to be paid more.
From the rural tax.
From the rural tax. So of that $510,261 in taxes that the former partners, the town of Hudson and the town of St. Joe, would pay, $265,551 comes to Hudson. Even though 88% of the town of Hudson circs their material here and 69% of the town of St. Joe. 65% of the taxes collected from town of Hudson would come to the Hudson area library, 56,734 from the town of St. Joe. So 65% of the taxes and 30% of the St. Joe taxes. Even though 83% of resident circulation is here at Hudson. So the decrease to the library budget, compared with the 100%, is 3.7% decrease, or a 0.4% decrease compared to the 70%. But the increase to former partner taxes is 72% for library taxes.
Before we leave that slide, I might just ask again, so we understand this proposal. So those fees are collected at the county level. They're then dispersed back to the Hudson area library. In our case, 65% of it would only come back. And then based on, is it a state formula or a county formula where the other 35% goes to?
It is a state formula. It's a Wisconsin state statute.
And that, I'm assuming that would be segregated funds that would go to other libraries. Is that a fair, it wouldn't go into some general fund?
Right.
But it can, if they took 30% of it, they can legally take 30% of it and do whatever they want. So they can levy based on the Act 150, is that what it is?
They levy based on Act 150.
At whatever that cost is, and then they can decrease, which is what they're doing to the area library right now, and they are dispersing it. Rich and I have discussed this at length, and there's no recourse for us because they can do that.
No, the reason they can do that is because the state calls for a minimum of 70% pass-through from the county to the library. Years ago, Darrell Standifer, when he chaired the county board, said there's no reason why these libraries shouldn't be getting 100%. There's no reason why the county should be keeping 30% of that money. And that money doesn't have to be dedicated to libraries at 30%. As Paul said, it can go anywhere. So they decided that they were going to punish us for amending the agreement, that so we were not going to pay the bribes that we had been paying to our community or surrounding municipal libraries, that an agreement with that we would make up any of the money that they lost by allowing us to vote, for them to vote to allow us to become a joint library, okay? So back when the recession hit, we were in a deficit situation, and we had to look at every single means that we had to secure our money here. So the municipalities voted unanimously to allow for the amending of the joint library agreement that would then allow us to keep that money that we were paying to the surrounding municipality libraries. So they punished us, and the only way they could really do it, they wanted to sue us. Roy Schobert wanted to sue us, and found that it was not a binding contract or agreement that we had, and therefore there was no legal course or recourse. So the next best thing then is they said, we're going to keep the 30%. We don't have to pass through 100%, and they can be selective in how they do it. They show it, again, it was punitive, and they just said they're keeping the 30%. So that's why it can be spent anywhere, because that's what they used to do anyway.
Tina, I would suggest on the previous slide where you
did two comparisons. There is one comparison missing, and that's if the county did give us 100%. Under our current situation, I think it was the current, the previous would be, anyway, you give one, this is what it would be with 2 municipalities, and this is what it would be with 4, but you factor in the 70%. That number gets very close if you make it the
Actually,
100% county funding. That one, I think, right there.
oh,
Yeah,
actually, absolutely. Actually, it is more. It's
Yeah.
still more. This is more. 803, 898 is more than the 800, I believe it was 800,642.
Yeah.
That, yeah, so.
but if
it's-
they paid 100%,
It's
Oh,
about
Picture
27
would be-
and change,
yeah,
more,
yeah.
Yes.
I always figured about 30, I thought it was.
give or
Yeah.
take.
So, one of the things that I didn't understand, and of course, his presentation last night was during citizen comments, so we couldn't have any type of interaction. Is there anything in his proposal that would still call for the city of Hudson and the village of North Hudson to continue to make those payments to those other municipalities?
As far as I know, no. It wasn't presented to me.
So, he's presenting this, presuming it's gonna pass the county. The county just voted 17-2 to not give us our money back. Why would these municipalities vote for this if it means we don't have to make those payments to them anymore? And they're not gonna get it from the county, are they?
Well, what was the quote? Hopefully the town's gonna leave willingly.
Well, but that, even if they leave, we're still sitting there. I mean, obviously, if they leave, they're gonna be taxed. Those other municipalities will be getting the money back through the taxes for the other 2 municipalities, but we're not leaving. We would still be a joint library, and meaning then that we would still supposedly be owing them money
The
for
city
allowing
doesn't,
us.
the city
The
never,
city doesn't.
the
yeah.
city never owed, it, the only,
And the village number is so low.
and the village number is so low.
On rural, what would be considered rural circulation?
I mean, no library has to, no regular library
They can, but they don't have to. Eau Claire does actually have an agreement with Altoona. I believe it's Altoona. And so they do have a reciprocal agreement where
Does it go both directions?
I believe it does.
Well,
I
if the
mean-
money,
But
if the
that-
money is coming from the library, we're contributing to the library, so ultimately it's
So-
also being paid by us.
There's not a requirement. How can
And
I
actually,
say?
I think it's the city of Eau Claire that pays Altoona and Altoona for their residents' use in Altoona and vice versa.
So as residents of Wisconsin use various libraries, there's no sending money back and forth among the libraries. It's only
Municipality.
it's only the rural residents. And so that's,
So the money, but the money
Yeah.
that we were paying are the other municipalities that voted to allow us to become the joint library,
was the money that they lost
right? And it
for
was-
the rural circulation resulting from the 3, not from the city of Hudson.
Okay.
From the other 3.
But the money was
But,
being
yeah.
paid by the library.
Library, so
It-
what
it-
Rich is
It was
saying-
being paid
Yeah.
to our budget,
Right.
so, I mean,
Right,
So city
right, right.
tax
working to
dollars
the
are
city of Hudson is still
Yeah.
contributing to the budget.
Right.
As a joint. As a
Correct,
joint.
but that's also
But
coming
if you
here
were-
and then going to the other.
So my
we're
question
going-
is still, are these other, so none of that was coming from us, and you say the town was, or the village was minuscule. All right?
So they will be getting rural circulation.
So you think they'll be made whole then?
They'll be made whole.
Okay,
They will be made for all practical purposes.
okay.
They're 2% town.
So this is the one thing that I've always asked when this subject comes up, which is, does the town of Hudson not have the right to have their own library?
Absolutely.
So
They can have
does
their
the
own.
town of St. Joe have the right to have their own library by itself?
Yeah,
Does the village of North Hudson have that right?
right.
So they have that right, and 14, 15 years ago, they exercised that right, got permission from the county to do so as a joint library, saying, we're gonna have our books in that library in the city of Hudson, and we're gonna go in together and hire a director to make it more cost effective, and that's where our library is gonna be. And so essentially, this is telling town of St. Joe and the town of Hudson, sorry folks, you can't have your own library. We're gonna tell you what to do. And from a perspective of those municipalities' ability to have their own library, if they so chose to 15 years ago, and the county gave the board and the municipalities the power to change the joint library agreement, which included those payments, with no resolutions or no ordinances tied to it, then when that decision was made several years ago, that decision was made on legal grounds and was made between the municipalities. I don't think everything that's going on here is not right. And it's not right to the town of St. Joe, and it's not right to the town of Hudson.
You know,
And, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
I was present when the town of St. Joe decided to come into the joint library, because originally, it was the three partners.
Yep, that was like a year
St.
later,
Joe-
wasn't it?
St. Joe came in about a year and a half later.
Yeah.
Kind of late to the party, part of it was because of where it hit us in budget time, and we just could not make that swing at that time. When we entered into the joint library agreement to begin with, we were really looking out for New Richmond and Somerset and saying, can we work this so that our monies go to you and you pay them out? That seemed to not to be very viable in the long run,
Right.
because they're getting 100% funding from the county on their library. So they're really being made whole by county anyway, because county's not paying you the 30% difference. So the St. Joe, when we signed, which my name's on this one, on the 2008 agreement, we went into that saying, okay, we need to reformulate this a little bit. And that's why it says what it says. But I'm gonna just say one thing. We put this language in here that there had to be a year notice given to the rest of the partners if anyone decided to leave, because we knew it was a big deal when we all came together, and it's gonna have to be a huge deal when one of us leaves.
Yeah,
And I'm more angry about that than you are, because
I would expect you to be.
who thinks who is gonna do this just because someone's told to do it? That's not happening.
Right, well, and not only
I
that.
cannot see any which way that the town of St. Joseph is gonna leave this joint library, and I can't speak for him and his municipality, but I know where we stand.
Well, and here's one other thing to take into consideration is the fact that agreement that was made originally, whether right, wrong, indifferent, not good, good, the fact that the residents of each municipality were almost being taxed in two different ways, one levy, but two different means for that money to be distributed, that never should have been in perpetuity. And the fact that they gave the joint library and the municipalities the ability to amend that inside of the agreement showed the intent that, hey, you guys don't have to do this the whole time, because we're giving you the power to make that change. And that was done, how long ago was that? 6, 7 years ago?
3, 4 years.
4 years ago?
Was the proposal made as Roy Solberg or as
That
a
was my
representative of the
question.
county?
Did he stay
No, that was
there?
by him. It was his presentation.
I make a motion.
So that looked, strike county supervisor.
I was gonna say, I make a motion to Roy Schoberg pay the town of St. Joe and the town of Hudson $468,369.
Not an action
Ask
item.
Roy Schoberg, can I get a second?
I get your facetiousness.
I want to say something.
Not really.
We got Don, go ahead.
The reason I wanted to understand what was being proposed the old adage, seek first to understand, then to be understood. If I don't understand what's trying to be presented, I certainly can't, get up to speed that quickly. I think the concern that we have as a town, I know the concern we have as a town, is that we entered into this in good faith. Now we have a self-created problem at the county, which will only fund 70% of the funding instead of 100. That's something we don't control as units of government. That's a county-created problem. And the solution to it, just simply put, even if we take these numbers, you're seeing a decrease of $29,000 in the budget, which you say, well, that's great. There's efficiencies in government and we're driving costs down. And the flip side is, you're paying 80-some thousand, South St. Joe, we're paying 90-some thousand in perpetuity, and that doesn't come back through to the libraries.
And it increases.
So there's a huge disconnect here as to how this is being sold to the population
Yeah.
that pays the taxes and that uses the library, and hopefully they're the same people. And I
Yeah.
think that's something that we need to address.
So one other factor to even consider on top of that is you've got one of the most efficiently run libraries in the entire state.
Yes.
So you put that onus back on the county to tax your municipalities. Those formulas are all based on usage and based on per cert costs of not one of the most efficiently run libraries in the county, but on other ones that are no longer under the control of your folks' municipality. You get a representative on this board that helps make decisions on those costs. And so that is just the beginning, frankly.
The library is being punished for their efficiency.
That's true.
That's-
Well, they're being,
Well, and it's a way of helping the circulation costs, so it's a very efficiently run library. We're pooling together a community's resources to serve its community. And I think the board, in the time that I've been here for 5 years, we've really worked hard on being efficient,
Right.
quality services, and accessibility to everybody. $3.53, and Tina's made this presentation multiple years. It is one of the most efficiently run libraries in the state, bar any of the services. You
Yeah.
compare services to services, nobody can touch us.
that's
Right.
And that's the thing, that when you're not pulling your resources together, stuff gets more expensive to run and to do the quality that we do. And so, yes, if you're being rated, it's going to be taxed on somebody else's cost of circulation. The taxes are going to go up just because nobody else runs it as efficiently with the quality of services that I think we've got going on here.
Yes, Teresa.
I just want to get down to this point. Is there something that he can do to force this dissolution? I
So-
mean, you talked a little bit about the legality of these agreements, but I just want to know where we're standing on this.
well, a couple things. First of all, and I think it's important that this be on the table, that people understand this. This is, there are a couple of things that Roy wants. Okay, Roy would really like to have this library be the Hudson Municipal Library, period. And he's been after that for some time, okay? In conjunction with that, he uses the fact that we have not gotten increases from several of our partners over a period of time as a reason to do this. He's saying that the partners are unwilling to fund any type of increases, and therefore we're going to fix it in a different way, all right? And I think it's important that we understand that, and because that's the discussion that he's having with our city council members. I understand he has talked to 5 of our city council members. So does he have any authority to do anything? No, he doesn't. Can he convince the city council at Hudson, the city of Hudson, to do something? I don't know the answer to that. Yes, but I can guarantee it's coming. Where I can see this, we're gonna probably have a vote on this. So there are some other considerations here, though. I find it amusing because when this board made the determination that we weren't gonna make those payments anymore to the surrounding municipalities, we were told that we were immoral and unethical for breaking an agreement with our municipal partners. So I guess the solution, the fix to that, is to break an agreement with our partners, right? And so I don't follow the logic of this. The other thing is, it's implied, but it wasn't stated last night. He just said, hopefully, the two municipalities will be willing to exit. So there's an implied threat there that if they don't, action would be taken somehow to kick them out. It wasn't stated.
It takes, per page 9 of the agreement, all 4 member bodies
Yep.
to sign off on it.
Yeah.
So regardless of what council does, as I read the agreement, it's mute.
I think we'd be nuts to do that. But another consideration here, just so everybody understands, is that since we did the strategic planning with the consultant that we had, this whole thing has turned around significantly. We've got the new director, the foundation is up and running and raising money, the Friends continue to raise money, but the foundation is what percent is from the town or from St. Joseph?
Well,
And what percent of the money coming in is from the town or
there's a
St. Joseph?
significant chunk of
This is-
contributions to the foundation that come from.
We'd just be shooting ourselves in the foot to even consider this. You know, at a time when the foundation is really taking off, the library's doing well. I think we've had this discussion here. Yes, have we gone back and made the request for the 30%? Yeah. Have we done it as vehemently as we had in the past? No. You know why? Because we've moved on. It's no longer our issue. County, this is your issue. Fine. 70%, we're good with that. We've worked our budgets just fine.
Yep.
Without the 30% ever since that they've taken it from us. It's not our issue. Move on. Just move on. We have. All right? So, I don't know what more to say other than I don't like the idea. I love the joint library agreement and the joint library that we have. It is efficient. A lot of people don't like to see efficiencies. It scares them for those looking in from elsewhere.
We're not only efficient, we're good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
we're innovative. I mean, thanks to Tina and the team that she's put together. I mean, innovative and creative, and we're delivering needed and much appreciated services. And we can circulate a book at a really good price, but we're doing a whole lot more than circulation.
Right.
Yeah.
And so to tear it apart is just,
Hey, Don, did you have something?
Well, I just wanted to say, from serving on the county board for 6 years, that's why I asked where the county chair is and where that is. If it's one elected official on the county board driving this, that's fine. I guess that's the person's right to do. But there's something very destructive about this process. I mean, there's not clearly defined boundaries when you go from the city to the town to the county. Where are we? We're all in this thing together.
Right.
We're all trying to drive efficiencies, and I think we're missing what the ultimate goal of what the library is for, which is for the advancement of education for the young people in our community. Might be other issues, might not, but that's right at the top for me. So now we sit here, and now we're trying to be sold, I'm saying as towns, representing the town, that we should increase our taxes, $90,000 per year, or 111% increase for the town of St. Joe. And the implied implication there is that those towns haven't been paying their fair share to the joint library. Whether it's stated or not, that's the message that comes back of like, you've only been, in our case, you've only been paying $202,000. You should have been paying $293,000, so pay up. And I'm back to the cost benefit of that, trying to sell this to the people who vote all of us into office of saying, you pay another 90, in our case, you pay another 90-some thousand dollars per year, and we can show the benefits to the library and the kids that use it, and it's gonna go down $29,000. I mean, I wouldn't want to be making that argument in a public forum. I wouldn't.
Well, somebody once told me, if a computer knows this much, I know this much. Well, Roy's coming from a perspective, a county spends this much, we spend this much. And so it's all skewed, but when it comes down to the town level, this library budget at $202,000 out of the town, when you put it in a pie chart, is 25–30%.
It's huge.
It's a huge chunk of our pie. And dragging another 30,000 moves it to the 45% number. So it's unreasonable. And so it's.
But it wouldn't be in your, I mean, to be really clear, if the joint library goes away, you no longer, the towns no longer pay money in.
It's not a local levy anymore.
It's not a local levy, it's a county levy,
I
and so the
understand, but
county
it's
goes
still
up.
our pie grows
Yeah.
to that portion of it.
One quick thing here too, though, and this was when, who was the former finance director for the city? Brenda. Brenda and I had a sit down, and when she approached the Department of Finance in the state of Wisconsin, it was made very clear that just because you have that levy capacity now, if the joint, as town or village, that levy capacity can be reduced based on
It is
taxing,
reduced.
or
Yeah,
I'm
not
sorry,
can,
it is
it is.
reduced.
Reduced.
It is reduced based on who's responsible and transferred to the governing body who is responsible to fund the library. And so you guys, whether or not it's 25% or 10% or 8%, that section, that levy will go away, and it's not like you guys can go spend it on roads or anything like that.
Right.
So the delta that you guys would be making up is, you're transferring from having control to giving it to another body, and it's already known that it will increase on your residents.
I guess the last fact I'd share with the board, and then I've kind of done talking, but when you look at the levy limits that we were underneath, and we all are, but it's not based on the increase in valuation of the existing homes, it's based on new construction. And that 1 year that we had, our tax increase based on new construction was $11,000. So Barb, I would just say, that this is a big deal.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And if you're gonna shift it from our levy and just say, well, now we can pay the money because it's on the county levy, I mean, that's a tough sell.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't want
Yeah.
to sell it, I'm the.
No. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we're all in
Fighting against
agreement.
this furiously.
Yeah, no, we're on your guys' side, that's why we're bringing this to
So
light
back,
for
so
all.
back to the problem at hand.
Yes.
Do you feel that he's going to come back to the council and ask for a vote for the city to leave the joint library? Is that what you think
I
that's
believe
going?
he will. I think that, given his conversations that he's had with the council members, there's probably one or two that would want it on the agenda at some point.
And do you feel that it would be helpful from your partners to have some sort of resolution or something voted on at our next meetings that you could bring to your council?
I do,
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out what we can do
yeah.
to be, because this library board can do whatever they want. In the end, it's the three of us sitting here that are going to be the difference maker here. So
That's
if
right.
it takes a
Yes.
resolution that says that we support and want to remain,
Yeah,
I'm okay with formulating something.
okay.
So we're September 3rd, right?
Correct.
And we're the 12th. And
You're
what do
the
you?
12th?
We're the third.
3rd, okay, 3rd.
And what do
We
you?
have to do it soon.
First
Bob
Monday,
was up
that
there.
would be,
Yeah,
the second
week,
would be the second Monday because of Labor Day, so that's what,
Okay,
The
so it's
second, the ninth.
Ninth.
9,
So you're after St. Joe. I gotta figure out what I can do to make that happen.
okay.
No, please send it down to Melissa because we'll sign it too. Even though they're not booting us out or trying to boot us out, I'm 100% behind this. And earlier it was said that, we weren't paying our fair shares, but when you're knocked up against that levy limits that we are, and you were having increases in
We've heard it.
EMS,
We've heard it.
fire, and every other thing, we gave as much as we could per the contract. I mean, that's
Yeah.
3-year rolling average, it's in the contract.
Well, that actually, that's in state law.
Yeah.
Well,
So, but Stan, it was put in state law because it was discovered that none of the municipalities had been keeping up with a statutory mandated increase in funding to the library. So in statute, libraries have to have mandatory increases every year. And
one of
when,
the state government would do something like that.
well, but that's the way it was always. okay?
Decades.
But when we formed the joint library, a couple things happened. Number one, the other towns that are members of the library never had to sign off on exemption. Okay? So you're exempt from the county tax if you provide a certain amount of money to the library that you support. And then you sign off on the exemption saying, yes, we have funded the library to the legal extent that is required. You guys signed off on it, we signed off on it, and the county signed off on it. And they shouldn't have. None of us should have, because we were not keeping up with that statutory requirement that there be increases in funding. So when this was discovered, it was right in the throes of the recession, and it was discovered, I'm sure, by Roy, as he was the one that brought it up. And it would have, at that time, if we had been required to make up the difference and get at the current level that we should have been at, we all would have been doubling what we were paying at a time when even the city was at levy limits because of the recession that was going on. So instead of, and Roy wanted to pursue that. So Dean Knudsen, at the time the representative, said, we'll fix this. And his fix was, I say this, but it was a little short-sighted. He just said, we'll go with a 3-year average, rolling average, expecting that there would be annual increases, but that didn't happen. So that 3-year rolling average after 3 years means that anybody that didn't provide any increase has stayed at that same amount of funding for the past 3 years. And that was not the intent, all right? So
I don't understand intent, I can only understand what's written.
Yeah, but, all right, well, that's fine. But at the same time, we've all been skating pretty much on what we should have been paying statutorily to the library. So again, I don't want to get into an argument here today over this, but I don't think it's unreasonable that everybody have like a 2% increase per year, or whatever the mandatory statutory increase is for all the rest of the libraries. You're still way ahead because you didn't have to make up that deficit. You're still way ahead. And that's what started all this, frankly. This is what, okay? So, and he's been complaining about it for some time. Now, I get it. I know that, you know, town of Hudson borrowing money for the first time ever for road repairs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not sustainable. You can't be borrowing money for operating costs. It doesn't work. So we get that. We know that you guys are at levy limits, but at the same time, I know you're in between a rock and a hard place right now, but you know, they can be, this is the argument that they're going to be making out there, and that's what I'm sure is what he's telling the city council right now. And what he's going to continue beating that drum.
Well, I know Bob's gonna give a presentation at our board meeting on the 3rd, and we've already penciled in the 2%.
Yeah.
When we look at what the numbers are gonna be, I mean, there might be, you know, there might even be more there. I mean, that's just part of the deal, but I mean, I'm not cutting salaries or cutting people and stuff like that.
I understand, Stan. I just, and it's, just so long as everybody understands why we're where we're at right now.
Is there anything else you think we can do to help?
Talk to the.
Raise more money.
Deeper in the pocket.
Really quickly, guys, think about that vote was 15-2. How many town or county supervisors reside in the town of Hudson? There's 2. St. Joe, there's 2 or 3. 2. You have 1.
Who voted?
Who voted for?
Yes.
Yep. Voted against. Yeah, it was one of the 2. And we got 3 in the city that all voted for it. And I've had discussions, and we know who those 3 are. And, you know, that's, what is that? 3, 5, 7, 8. 8 of 19 supervisors. Doesn't take too much to get a coalition of the willing.
You know, and that's part of it. There's no doubt.
I mean, that's part of it.
But the other part is this. They've dug in. They've had 3 or 4 votes now to take the 30%. As I said before, I think it's a different message when we just let them know, keep the money. If it's that important to you, keep the money, and we've moved on, and you should move on and stop trying to find a solution or a problem for a solution. It's not there. We don't have a problem. We're good with the 30%. You keep it. It's all yours. Have fun with it. Do with it what you want. but we have moved on.
A resolution would be good, though.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yes, yes,
Yep.
I think it's a good idea, because it's something you can take.
yes. Yeah, no.
Would you like to see, I asked Teresa's, one resolution that we all sign off on, or separate resolutions from each of us? Okay.
I'm okay with separate.
One side. What do you want to free?
You the first sentence, you do the second.
I mean, I could send you what I'm thinking, if you want to.
Yeah, if you
Yeah,
have
we
to do that.
I'm just thinking,
Cut
I
and
think it's
paste.
signed, it's hard to get a resolution signed by everybody.
Right.
And I think it's easier to do individual ones, to expedite this, because we're under a deadline with the city.
But if someone had some language that you could send to
Well,
us.
Yeah, usually-
I'll work on that.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
legal send out,
I think that-
resolutions and we just copy,
Right.
Right, I'll
cut
get
the
you
words
one.
and stuff.
So I think Roy would be surprised that his initiative is resulting in such show of support for the library. I don't think that that's what he hoped for, so.
Well, sure, he doesn't hope for that, I mean, he's on a relative agenda.
Yes, 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 yes. And he does claim that he supports the library, but
No, I
it's.
wish.
Yeah.
But I think Rich raises an excellent example. At some point, we have to move on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, as a community, we have to say, that's why I said the self-created problem. If it's only 70%, then we'll find workarounds on that.
Yep,
Yeah,
The
yeah.
workaround isn't charging us 111% increase.
Yeah.
Correct, right.
right, and that's what we want to avoid is
Right.
that 111% increase and, yes, so.
So if I understand this right, the main threat is if he gets those 5 city council people on board with him, then what?
Well, I don't know, I mean, obviously, as Marcus, American Marcus, where'd that come from? As Marion pointed out, you know, we have an agreement that can only be amended or changed with affirmative vote on the part of the.
For all the members.
So, you know, arguably, if the city were to pursue it, we'd end up in court probably. I don't think the city would want to go that far. I don't understand why we would want to do that to our neighboring municipalities. You know, we need to be working together. And I just can't imagine why we would even consider doing that. But they will, you know. Like I said, there's 1 or 2 of them, I'm sure, that would bring this forward, just if for no other reason to get a discussion on it.
For the record, page 9, number 13, amendment cancellation. The joint library agreement may be amended or canceled at any time by approval of the governing bodies of all member municipalities. And that's it.
Anyone can stop it.
Right, anyone voting against, yeah.
And really, the only way to get, the only opening in this agreement is if there's a major capital project.
Correct.
And then it allows the municipalities to go away by giving a year's notice. Or if the city goes away, it automatically disbands. Because that's in the page before, on page 8.
Yeah, once a capital project goes, then it's 5-year notice.
Right,
Yeah.
but it gives them that initial thing. Yeah.
What do you mean by that, if the city goes away?
It says here, if the city of Hudson withdraws, or if any member of municipality withdraws, resulting in the closing of that library, or the agreement is terminated or dissolved because everything's fallen apart, the library assets go back to the city. Because the city put the assets in to begin with. So that's on that page 9 at the very top. So it's just-
So-
Yeah, when we formed the library, anything that existed,
I get that, it's the word withdraws that.
Yeah, but that's having to do with a major capital project. If
Oh,
there's a
okay.
major capital project identified,
Got it.
say you're gonna build a new building, then the municipalities are on the hook for that building, and it gives you that ability that there's a different time frame that takes place there than what he's talking about. He's talking about that the agreement has to have all the municipalities agreeing to change in it. Because this agreement that we're looking at in 2008 was not the first one.
right, there was a 2003 or 4 one, I think.
Well, there was one, and then there was one when St. Joe joined, and then there was this one.
Yep.
Right, so it's been agreed to more than once, and all the partners agreed.
We agree to agree.
And we did.
Yeah.
Don't hear that very often.
I don't know, Mary, do you remember doing this one? This one took us forever to get this hammered out.
You
met
guys
every
did that
week for-
every
mornings, I
week for
think.
months.
You met mornings.
7 a.m. every week for months at City Hall to hammer this out. And I think we did it for 3.5 months
Wow.
with,
Well, it's good to have that history here.
yeah, I can't think of the attorney's name, it's down on Main Street. I'll think of it, but anyway, yeah, we met twice a week,
Catherine?
7 a.m. No, the one over by the art gallery. He's up
Bob
above.
Arson's was part of that too.
No, he was up above. I was on the first one, not this
Oh,
one.
that one.
He's up above the art
Oh,
gallery.
yeah. Redmond?
Redmond.
Yes, right.
He's the one that wrote this.
Yeah.
And he sat with us twice a week
Yeah.
for months,
Jeez.
At no cost.
at no cost.
Right.
Pro bono.
Wow.
He did it
Wow.
pro bono. But 7 a.m., we went every morning at 7 a.m. We worked till 8:15 because all of us had to go to work. And we did it twice a week. I think we did 2.5 months.
It's pretty unbelievable. Anything else? Do you have anything else, Tina?
I'm good.
Okay.
I just have one more thing. Did you present any of your information to the city council at all?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
Tina, could we get a copy of your slides?
Yeah, I can email them to you and
Yeah.
if you want
I'll leave
Get
you-
me-
Yeah, I think you did a great job.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Putting
that's
that,
a
putting
lot
that
of
together.
numbers.
I'd like to get those too, so get them out to, I would imagine, everybody here at the table and then our partners as well.
But I think if they're gonna go to a vote or have it on their agenda for discussion, you have to be there and maybe you can clean that up a little bit so it's not quite so confusing and not include anything from him.
Right.
Well, and he handed this stuff out last night. We didn't really have much of a
So-
chance to look through it or absorb it. He did not go through the numbers during his presentation because he only gets so much time.
And
This was all put together by Tina today.
Right,
she
she told me that,
received it
yeah.
this
Yeah.
morning.
It would be good to get the Friends of and the Foundation also to weigh in on this, I think, in a big way.
We had a very positive, at the foundation meeting, we had a very positive discussion.
And I think, beyond our partners, the damage that this would do to the library's reputation, the positive support we're gaining in the community, and to the foundation, and even the Friends, to an extent, it would just damage us. It
Yeah.
would not be positive.
Well, he did name it appropriately, alternate reality.
Is that what he called it?
That's what he
Oh,
called
I
it.
thought you called it. Wow.
Tina just cut and paste. All right, anything else on your director's report?
Thank you, guys.
No, thank you for moving this up, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. All right, so we're going, you good? Anything else?
I hope everybody read the statistics and all of that good information and the strategic plan update. But I think for time's sake, unless you have questions, we can get that.
Just kudos for the continuous great stuff that those reports are just filled with
Thanks.
so much good news.
We have a really great team in place right now, and hopefully we'll keep it that way, but yeah, we're doing great things. Thank you.
Chair,
Yes.
I see we're on film, who's filming for us, or who's,
This is one of our staff. This
Okay.
is, yeah, Christopher Mick. He is a NASA educator, and he does a lot of our STEAM programming, and he is awesome.
so this is good, this is available to everybody then?
It will be on River Channel.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I figured. Just didn't
All right,
see it,
so for are you
I'm done.
You're good, okay. We'll go to our support organizations and we'll start with the Friends.
Okay. Just want to show you the full jar of family-friendly seeds. Keep filling it up, please. We are at 40,283 as of August 8th.
Wow.
So keep up the good work. And I just want to advertise our upcoming book sale, September 23rd to the 27th. And then the bag sale, 28th and 29th. So put that on your calendars. Thank you. That's it.
Awesome, thank you.
Mhm.
Susie?
Thanks.
Yes.
I've got a list of things I wanted to share with you this evening. First of all, at our last meeting, we approved our 2019-2021 fundraising plan. And along with that, we set some priorities. The number one priority is to meet with Tina and the library leaders to talk about short and long-term goals. We think we have the short-term goals pretty well panned out. Tina does a great job in providing us programs that she'd like to see funded, and we've been able to do that. But we would like to focus on some long-term strategies that the library board and Tina might have in mind. So hopefully you'd be willing to share that with us. We're gearing up for our 2019-2020 annual campaign. That gets started in November, mailings and things that go out. So we would appreciate any support that you can give us for that. We have a Hogwarts event that's coming up on October 19th. Last year's event was very successful. People really enjoyed it, so we're looking forward to doing that again this year. Our year end is September 31st. To date, we're actually ahead of our donations by $2,300. That may not seem like much, but when you talk about the other nonprofits that have been reporting even nationwide, they talk about how their donations have decreased, and particularly because of the tax benefits that were, I would say, taken away, not being able to deduct as much. So we're really excited about that. As of the end of July, we had donations of just over $42,000. In the last 4 years that we've been doing this, the grants to the library have been $98,000. So thanks everybody for your support.
Yep.
Look forward to the next year.
Thanks, Susie. Okay, we'll go to president's comments and then reports and municipal updates. So Tina pretty much just summed up a few minutes ago what my comments would have been, and we had a great discussion with our partners leadership. So we'll go to St. Joe.
I put together a presentation, sent it. I had a conflict. I was chairing the finance committee at my church. So, I clearly, over the course of the last few years, things have improved significantly at St. Joe. And having Teresa back as chair is a good thing. I knew she was a supporter. I didn't know she was as strong a supporter.
It was a fun conversation with her.
Yeah. She's.
All right, so Town of Hudson.
Really nothing other than the 3rd, so we'll be meeting in 2 weeks is when we'll be meeting, so that letter will be done. Other than that, I really have no update because, with Don just coming on board, there's just been other things going on to get started.
Robert?
Well, like Stan mentioned, we've already had that discussion about the 2% increase, and he's on board with it. I am going to present this to the village council on September 3rd. We have our next meeting, and it's really a done deal. So it's more of a formality than anything, but I think it's something that should be done so every town council member finds out what's going on here. But,
Yeah, it's a good thing to.
Yeah, good thing to show up and let them know what's happening. But as far as me and Stan, we meet pretty much once a week, and we've talked about this, and he's on board with it.
Super. Rich?
Well, I think I gave you my update
Right.
already.
Gotta give you a chance. All right, excellent. Going to number 8. Boy, we are really hopping around a lot here. Number 8 will be an action item, so request for approval of Hudson Area Library Foundation plans for donor recognition. Do you want to cover that?
I will. And Susie, feel free to hop in, and Barb as well. This is really a formality, partly because the foundation has this really great, really cool idea to put up clings on our windows down that face Vine. And Tricia Christensen has been working on this. She has worked with the city and the downtown committee. So to make sure it's okay, I really wanted to bring it to the board as well, just to get the board on board. The plan is to have these clings that say connect, okay, help me out guys, engage, just different things about what the library does for the community. And then a smaller cling that would be from a sponsor. A sponsor would be advertised on it because it would be, say, Associated Bank, supports connections at the library. And
So this is part of the effort is to secure sponsors for foundation efforts, including the fundraising efforts. And so rather than approaching businesses sort of several times a year, will you help sponsor this? Will you make a donation? Will you help sponsor this? To make a one-time appeal, once a year appeal. And the hope is that we will find, that the foundation will find 5 business sponsors, community business sponsors, that each will contribute $5,000. And the recognition they would get for that sponsor, among the things they would get, is having their
A window cling down there?
a window cling. So, and that they would have it for a year, and then we would seek, then the foundation would seek other business partners. They would get other recognition, like they would be listed on
the foundation website. So it's a different way to raise funds to cover operating costs of the foundation and provide funding for grants.
Is that always just an annual?
This is a first. This is the first.
This
Yes.
is the
Well,
first.
this is the initial effort to do this in this way.
There isn't 6 months for 2,500?
No. At least that's, the hope is that that is not, so that we can set those in place and then they can count on it and we can count on it. And so.
How much are we talking?
5,000.
It doesn't cost the library anything.
No, the
But the
thing.
sponsorship is $5,000.
Right, but aren't we plans for donor recognition, the Klingon things for the, sorry about the Klingon.
Okay, there's more to this,
Yeah.
okay, there's more to it.
I knew that.
Unfortunately, I don't have pictures, which, with all the math I've been doing, I wasn't able to get them from Tricia in time. But, yeah, so it
So
would
the other-
just be on the windows.
And then on the steps.
And on the steps would be for donors, I believe it was 2,500.
No,
500 or
500 or more.
500 or more.
I think there are,
And they would be magnetic,
right.
going up our steps.
So, thank you for stepping up for the library.
Oh, nice, clever.
And so the names would be there for a year.
So is this I'm asking, I don't like playing devil's advocate all the time, but in this
Yeah,
case I
okay.
will, because how are we gonna reach every business and give them an opportunity to do this? Because the one thing I don't want it to become is a selective billboard for selective businesses, and not every business in the area is given a chance to say no.
Oh,
'Cause
I don't think we would try, I think we would look for
So
another
there's-
opportunity.
Okay, so there's enough of opportunity for
So
people. I'm
what-
not saying say no, I'm just saying it's not just gonna be a cling and
For connectedness, only one business gets that one.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
Like you're
yes.
saying, you're thinking if there is more donors, they could say
have
this
one
is where we
inside the-
would.
Or someone like, oh, I'd like to
Stalls
do
in the
that, oh, I'm
bathroom.
sorry, our spots are all full.
This
Well, what
year,
the heck, why didn't nobody?
they're all full this year, but there's certainly, so there will be there'll be no competitors. So there will be, the
There won't be
intent,
three banks.
There
there won't be three banks
listed on them.
or
Exclusivity.
three realtors,
Got it,
right.
or,
Yep.
so,
All right, I'm
so
tracking.
the idea is that,
Paul, we would love to have that problem.
I'm totally with you, I'm just thinking if we do have that problem, we gotta have something to remedy it,
but, you know, we're gonna,
Okay.
you know, we'd love to
realize
have you
that.
next year, you know? And there have been several businesses that have already been very generous
Mhm.
and in providing support. So they're gonna get the first,
Recognition.
they're gonna get the first crack at the recognition.
Absolutely.
And then hopefully set the stage for others. And Tricia said that at some point, the businesses were surveyed about giving, and they said the one thing we don't want to be is being constantly asked.
Yeah.
We'd like to
One shot.
one shot, and so we're sort of, she said the chamber actually didn't follow, the chamber did the research. The chamber didn't actually use the research, but she said, I think we should use the
Yeah,
research.
and that makes sense.
And so that will make, and so, yeah,
Yeah, because there's nothing more annoying than going and asking the same person 3 times.
Right, right.
Even as a requester.
right.
Because then you're like, sorry I forgot to ask you about this earlier, but we're having this event.
Right.
So I would move approval of the plans for donor recognition.
Okay, we got a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved.
Super.
All
Thank you.
right. Library Director Review Timeline.
I hand over.
That was Kate.
We're already at this. Oh my gosh.
I know it comes up really
Holy
quick.
Library yeoman.
So, this matches kind of what we had done last year as well, and which was done in prior years. So in September here, I would bring to you the blank copies of the reports. You would complete them based on the information that you have. And then October 15th is when you would submit it back to me. If I were not here, it would go to Paul. I would kind of compile the information. And in the past, we had Friends of the Library and Library Foundation input feedback gathered by trustee Barb Peterson. If you're willing to do that again this year, then that would be, okay. And then in November, before the meeting on the 19th, I would calculate the ratings that, all the input, so it would be anonymous at that point in time, and would just be a collective group of it. And the Policy and Personnel Committee would review that draft, so it could be immediately prior to our regular meeting, which would probably be easiest. And then on the 19th, you would approve that at our meeting, and then I would go over the review with Tina, and then in January, she would present her 2020 plan. So it would include information based on the evaluation. Last year, one of the things that we had talked about was changing the scale on the review. The draft, like one from the website for the evaluating directors from the library board had it on a 6-point scale, where I think before we had
5.
5.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the only thing. Otherwise, our evaluation that we've been using aligns with what they said the expectations would be in an evaluation, so changing the content of it, I wouldn't recommend, but we had had some discussion about the scale to know if we wanted to move to a 6-point instead of a 5-point, so.
Oh, you want a 6 or?
I don't know.
instead?
There was discussion about the scale last time, so I don't know if this is even, it should have good go to a policy meeting at this point in time, but really what we're doing aligns with what the state says we should be doing, and based on the job description and the vision and strategic plan, and everything is accounted for in our evaluation system. So I guess the timeline doesn't account for making any changes. I'm proposing this timeline to stay put meaning that everything would stay the same in that, in the process as well, and on that evaluation. And then if we wanted to consider it again for next year, that policy committee would actually have to meet and discuss it, probably starting in January. So I just wanted to address that as what had been proposed.
I mean, I think because Chris and Robert were fairly new, and even Jim, last year in terms of participating, maybe just staying, you felt you were pretty fresh.
Yeah, I was supposed to evaluate something I.
Had no
only-
idea. So, in just to stay with the current system, and then everyone will have an opportunity to experience it, and then gain input to see if changes should be made. Particularly since it's only the scale that we might be messing with.
I'm just saying, Abe, you're either above average or below average on the 6-point scale. You could never be neutral in the middle with a 5, or maybe with a 5-point scale.
This was my point. I think I was one of the ones that really hit this hard last year, probably to ad nauseum point, but.
It was.
It was, the descriptions for 4 and 5, you know, it's 1 is, or 3 is, you're doing fine. And then 4 was, you're exceptional. And 5 was, you're a superhero. And so I was like, there's gotta be something in between, you know, the most excellent person in the world and superhero, or there's gotta be something between you're doing good and the most excellent person ever. So then you end up with a 3, you're either doing a good job, which 3 technically is. You go through the review process, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but nobody wants to see 3s, you know, but that means you're doing okay. But then you could just move to a king or a queen.
Walk on water.
Right, yeah, you walk on water from a 3 to a 4.
Well, and I think that's why the timeline doesn't reflect that, because we did not get that policy discussion, the timeline.
So last year's was a 6-point?
No.
No,
Last year was the 5 point.
And we're gonna keep it a 5.
That's my recommendation.
yeah.
As chair of the
I
personnel
move
committee.
that we keep with this timeline and we keep the 5-point scale as is.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, motion is approved. All right, consideration of library participation in City of Hudson impact fee study. Jim?
We talked about it in the finance committee, and for a better understanding, Tina knows the bigger picture, but we thought that should be a joint board decision to go forward with this. So Tina, maybe you want to take the first step and.
I will try. And the bigger picture is I sat through the meeting at the beginning of the month. The department heads pulled together a couple of consultants to discuss impact fees and connection fees. There is a new comprehensive plan that's being worked on for the city of Hudson. And they talked about growth in the city and putting in place impact fees, which the city does not currently have. The timeline on these was pretty quick. I know that there was discussion about getting them in place and getting the ordinances in place, updated, to have it in place by January. I don't know, I asked Rich, he said it hasn't come to city council yet, but I wanted to be able to present it to you, to have you all read the proposals and get your feedback. It would cost, I know there was a spreadsheet back here somewhere, unless I didn't print mine, which I don't think I did. Allison, the finance director, did a comparison of the 2 consulting firms. Trilogy is the one that was recommended. It would be about $3,000 for the library's participation in this study. The purpose is really to prepare for the future, I guess, in a way, for future growth. It's a way to collect from the developers for the library to be able to support that growth. If we need to do rearranging, that's not the right word, renovations here in this building to make it work for more people. Service demands are increasing, so it's something to think about. They don't cover all the costs, but they cover some of the costs. And I know for the library, because we're a joint municipal library, there would be math involved where proportion of fees that could be used for a renovation would only be applied to the service population increase for the city of Hudson. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, it
Everybody?
did.
Okay, I just want to make sure I said it. So-
Yes.
Okay. So, questions, thoughts?
When we discussed this at finance, and I mentioned or reminded us that we have $14,000 of contributions that I believe were contributed actually before I became a member of this board, so 2010, that have been sitting there untouched. I believe that the contributors might well be very upset if they ever knew that those monies have been just sitting there waiting to be used. So there is a source of funds that could be used to fund this initiative. And I think to be able to, in all likelihood, in the next 5 to 10 years, there will need to be an investment of some enhancements for this, how this library is organized physically.
And this is spending the money to see how those fees can impact revenues towards the library.
How they, yeah.
I thought Tina did a really good job today. In fact, I applaud her for the second or third time crunching numbers today to be able to even bring to this presentation under the gun. $3,000 just to, I won't say, to restate. Most consultants, to me, are just restate the obvious. They just basically shape things, tend to be led and are more outcome based than they are the truth. So I'm not sure if I want. That being said, there is money, but maybe that money could be used for something else.
Right.
So.
What happens if the library does not participate?
I think we could join at a later time, actually. I know with Trilogy that would be an option, which is the consulting, which is be recommended by the city. Because in the discussion, you know, we're not at a point right now, we don't have any plans. And there was more discussion about the fire department and the water department. So I think at a later date, we could still.
So if impact fees, when impact fees are collected, as you may know, are they being collected for particular efforts? Or is
Not necessarily.
are impact fees collected and then subsequently those fees are distributed
By the departments?
by the departments or by the city to the departments?
When there's a need that fits the requirements of using.
So we wouldn't necessarily need to participate in the
study.
in the study in order to benefit. But we might need help in ensuring that we make the case appropriately to the city or
For the funds.
for the funds. We need to understand the impact fees and what's required. And so we might need some help in framing our request.
And is that what's gonna be part of that then?
I don't know.
Do you know, Rich?
No.
So implementation, this is what it says. We will assist the city with implementation of the fees as follows. review the city ordinance and prepare amendments to implement the proposed fees and update the ordinance to comply with current Wisconsin statutes, the particular sections that we anticipate updating, and then it's listed there. Prepare summary presentation of the study, include a survey of impact fees for peer communities, and evaluate the impacts on development, and attend meetings of the Utility Commission, Finance Committee, and 2 meetings of the Common Council. So that's right now what they're planning, what they're proposing.
I think I agree with you.
So, yeah, I didn't want to make a recommendation. I really wanted you to have the discussion. I think it's something that if it goes well for other departments, then we would want to explore more.
Frankly, it sounds like a lot of vagueness right now. We're not really sure what kind of return on investment we would be getting for our $3,000 some dollars.
Right.
And how much control we'd have over it.
Right.
Impact fees were used to repair the roof, and we believe impact fees were used to fund the elevator.
A
portion of the elevator when the building was converted to a library.
But impact fees it's very limited how they can be used, so.
And or collected, because that's what happened, was there was a very vague impact fee that was being collected, put in the account, and then it was realized that one is they had to stop collecting it, and then two is its usage was very limited in scope.
And
What was there?
you do have to begin using the fees within 8 years of when they are collected. So.
I think that's kind of interesting too, because they're even looking at, it's the facility for library, standards on square feet of existing plus planned facility space, 1,000 residents served through the planning
So it
period.
wouldn't, yeah.
There's things on here too that I may be like, get,
Yeah.
thank you.
One of the things, now that I'm kind of in my head going, it's been a while since this meeting, one of the things I remember thinking was, I don't know that we already fit that state statute or the best practices on square footage, so anything we need to do wouldn't be covered by an impact fee because it wouldn't be considered serving the new population, it would be considered serving the current population. So that would be useless to us. It might very well be a good thing for other departments, but I'm not sure that the library at this point would benefit.
And then the knowledge from the study without being tied into being an entity of the impact study, the knowledge of what they learned from it, we would still have access to because it would be an open record. So it's not like we couldn't use it with foundation or planning, the info, it just wouldn't be.
We have a new town chairman, but historically, the town of Hudson has never supported impact fees of any kind. So, that's just a note for you.
Right. Okay, it is an action item, so I'm either looking for a motion.
I got one more discussion on it.
Yeah.
Is there any single compelling reason why we should do this right now? Just, boil it down to, is there any one thing that jumps out and says, yeah, we should do this?
I don't have one.
I move we table item number 10.
Okay, motion's made to table item number 10.
I second that motion.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor
Aye.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Looking for a motion to adjourn?
Oh,
We covered everything.
One
Action
question,
item.
citizens' comments, number 3, did you ever call that?
You know what? I did not.
So,
Yeah.
for the record,
Yeah.
any citizens?
Citizen comments? Any citizen comments? Thank you. Citizen comments? Okay. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn hesitantly. Do we have a second?
Second.
Did somebody second?
I did.
Okay, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.